Hello, my name's Jan Knodel. I'm the Extension Entomologist for North Dakota State University. This video is about scouting for spider mites in field corn. Spider mites are a very tiny arthropod found on the underside of the leaf. They feed on the corn plant with piercing, sucking mouth parts. They feed on the plant sap. When you're ready to go out and scout, you start in the field edge to determine if spider mites are present. Look for the stippling on the leaves and or discoloration. Here you can see the mite infestation is fairly severe. You can see the yellowing and the necrosis of the plant tissue. In a severe situation, the leaves will go brown and you'll have leaf loss. If you turn the leaf over, you can see some gray area along the midrib, and this is actually webbing of the spider mites. Damage typically occurs near tasseling or later in the growing season. As with soybeans, spider mites infest corn plants from the bottom upwards. The management goal is to keep damage from reaching the leaf ear. The easy technique for looking for spider mites is to use a white sheet of paper and take the leaves that you suspect having spider mites and tap them to dislodge the spider mites. And then look at the sheet of paper for mites that may be moving around. After you check the field edge and you found spider mites, you want to continue to check the rest of the field by sampling 20 sites and a couple plants per site and walking a U pattern through the field. Try to determine how far the mites have moved into the field. In some situations you may be able to get by with only spraying the field edges. Under hot, droughty conditions, the spider mites can move and reproduce faster, so the whole field may need spraying. The goal of preventing spider mite economic loss is to prevent the spider mites from reaching the leaves near the ear, prevent the stippling from getting up to that leaf. So in general, the threshold is when it's in the lower quarter to third of the plant is when you see stippling, so it would be an action threshold. A more detailed threshold has been developed by Texas A&M University. It takes into account the market value of the corn, percent infested leaves per plant, and percent total leaf area damage, and the control costs per acre. Corn is susceptible to spider mite damage from tasseling through the hard dough stage. When corn has reached the hard dough stage, it is no longer susceptible. For two-spotted spider mite control in corn, there are several insecticides and miticides recommended. We have the organophosphate insecticide dimethoate active ingredient, and also the only pyrethroid registered active ingredient bifenthrin. Trade names are Tundra and Discipline. We don't recommend using other active ingredients of pyrethroid insecticides because pyrethroid insecticides are known to flare spider mite populations. The two miticides registered in corn are Comite and Oberon. They are used primarily in the southern states due to the severity of mite problems in corn. Go back to the field and rescout about 5 to 7 days after treatment. The reason why is because the spider mite eggs are not controlled with the insecticides. The eggs will hatch usually in about 5 days. Check to see if those young nymphs that hatch from the eggs are increasing in population. If so, you may need to retreat with a second application. Thanks for joining me today and learning how to scout for spider mites in field corn. Please see the Extension Entomology website for more information. Hello, my name's Jan Knodel. I'm the Extension Entomologist for North Dakota State University. This video is about scouting for spider mites in soybeans. Spider mites are very tiny arthropod and they're found on the underside of the soybean leaf. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts, so they feed on the green tissue of the soybean leaf. This creates a stippling effect when you first see the spider mite symptoms. Later on, the leaves may turn more of a yellow color and even go bronze when the leaf tissue starts to decrease. Spider mites are kept in control naturally with a fungal disease and also a predatory mite. The susceptible stage for soybean is from the R1 flowering stage through the R6 stage, which is the full pod. Scout the field at least weekly or bi-weekly. Spider mites often move into the edge of the field first, and you'll see them in stressed areas like drought or hot weather will increase the populations. Scout for spider mites, checking the edges first to see if you have them. For sampling, you can use a white sheet of paper on a clipboard, place it underneath the plants you suspect having spider mites, and wrap the plants over the white sheet of paper. The mites will dislodge from the leaves, and then wait a little bit and you'll see some mites moving around. Or you can also look for the mites by pulling up the plant and then look on the undersides of the leaves. And you can also look for the symptoms, which are the stippling or yellowing or even bronzing of the leaf tissue. And looking at the underside of the leaves, you can look for the mites, the tiny mites, using a hand lens. And then you can see if the mites are present. You can also look for the webbing, just like the name spider implies. They web, and they use the web for dispersing in a field. They'll move up to the top of the plant and then balloon from plant to plant on the silk strands. The next step is to determine if the plant is at action threshold for the spider mite. So since the mites are too small to count, we use the visual symptoms as an indicator of action threshold. Look at the plant and look for the stippling in the lower leaves, progressing up into the middle canopy and maybe a little bit up into the upper canopy. And you would want to see maybe a little bit of yellowing in the lower leaves, but no bronzing or leaf drop. And that would be considered an action threshold. So as you see, this one is obviously stippling all the way up to the top leaf. So this one would be at threshold. Sample several sites in the field and several plants in the field, and then work your way into the field until you find that leading edge for the spider mites. Sometimes you can just spray the edge of the field and avoid the whole field being sprayed. Some cases, when it's real hot and dry, the whole field may need to be sprayed. For insecticide selection for spider mites and soybeans, you can select organophosphate insecticide. Two that are registered in soybeans are the chlorpyrifos, Lorsban and generic, and dimethoate. There's one pyrethroid insecticide that is active against spider mites, and that's bifenthrin. Some of the trade names include Tundra, Sniper, Fanfare, and bifenthrin. We don't recommend using other pyrethroids like Asana, Warrior, Mastine Max, for example, because they'll actually flare spider mite populations and increase their reproductive rate. Go back to the field and rescout about 5 to 7 days after treatment. The reason why is because the spider mite eggs are not controlled with the insecticides. The eggs will hatch usually in about 5 days. Check to see if those young nymphs that hatch from the eggs are increasing in population. If so, you may need to retreat with a second application. When you're getting close to maturity, be sure you check the labels for pre-harvest intervals. Thank you for watching this video. and be sure to check the website below for more information.